What's a conspiracy theory that later got proven to be true? Armstrong was using an elaborate international blood transfusion scheme to cheat at bike racing. Jeffrey Epstein was trafficking women and children for some very elite people on a Temple Island. Crazy but true. Government surveillance is the most obvious one. Project MKUltra. The CIA really was experimenting on unsuspecting citizens to determine the effects of LSD, specifically as relates to mind control. The FBI really was eavesdropping on Dr. King, Jimmy Savile being a pedophile. John Lydon from Sex Pistols even came forward in the 90s and spoke about it on radio 20 years before the public found out. Edit for those who don't know. He was an insanely popular UK TV and radio presenter and DJ. Apparently the first ever to use twin turntables. He was a household name here. According to his wiki page, 450 people whose ages range from 8 to 47 came forward to complain about him. Investigations within 28 NHS hospitals confirmed that he sexually assaulted patients aged 5 to 75. Everybody knew. Nobody could stop it. Many even encouraged it and covered up for him. When I listened to the Slate podcast Slow Burn about Watergate, they mentioned how to a lot of people. It seemed to be the first vindicated conspiracy theory since it was first reported by tabloids and whatnot. A lot of Bernie Madoff's investors knew his fund was a scam. He had plenty of hedge fund quants and other sophisticated clients who understood there's no honest way to consistently outperform the market. They knew that a fund taking aggressive risks might beat the market most years, but it'll be up and down, some years way up, a few years flat. Nobody just churns out 11% can guarantee above market gains year after year. Not honestly, anyway. But they were wrong was what kind of scam Madoff was running. They assumed he was hooked up with an insider trading scheme, i.e., somebody inside Apple, GM, GE and C, was leaking quarterly earnings figures to him a week before they were publicly announced, letting him load up or dump stock before the market reacted. Instead of blowing the whistle, these guys all bought into the scam. Of course, as it turns out, Madoff was just running a traditional Ponzi scheme. Use new investors' deposits to pay out all the withdrawals, then steal whatever's left over. And if you're claiming 11% returns, deposits are going to vastly outnumber withdrawals. I feel bad for his true victims, but a lot of the investors he ripped off could better be described as co-conspirators. Edit. Misremembered some details. Madoff was guaranteeing up to 20% returns. Not just outperforming the market, but promising he would. That's considerably different than the high-risk IPO fund that our Wall Street bet seems to love. Rosemary Kennedy was shut away from society because of a botched lobotomy. Her family didn't know about it for 20 years. A rival of Thomas Jefferson revealed to the press that Jefferson had had an affair and several children with an enslaved person he owned, Sally Hemings, who was actually his late wife's half-sister. It was adamantly denied by the Jefferson family and historic foundations until recent DNA testing revealed it had been true. Edit. Just for further context, their arrangement was made while both Sally and Thomas were in France, where he was serving as American ambassador. At the time, Jefferson was age 44 to 46 while Hemings was age 14 to 16 and while Sally was a free woman. While in France there was certainly personal power dynamics at play. Sally being only 1/8 African herself and by many accounts was passable. Who could have chosen to stay in France, which was in poverty at the time on the edge of the French Revolution, made the decision to return to slavery in America under the stipulation that any children she would have would be freed at age 21. Sally also had a brother, James, who Jefferson brought to France to be trained in French cuisine, who also agreed to return to enslavement. To give context, whether there was affection and legitimate romance is unclear, as their relationship was never legitimized in Jefferson's writings or otherwise. The writings left from Sally's children say he never showed them any affection, though the Hemmings were said to have received preferential treatment even before the arrangement. All 5 of Sally's surviving children were freed under the agreement, and when Jefferson died, Sally was given her time, no longer given forced tasks but never freed. When Sally died, she was buried in an unmarked enslaved person's grave. The Bruce MacArthur story is a weird one. For 7 years there was a conspiracy theory of a serial killer specifically targeting gay men around Toronto was floating around, but it could never be proven, until eventually enough evidence came up implicating him and he got caught in a sting operation. That the FBI spied on Ernest Hemingway. Apple slows down older iPhones with software updates. That the government was monitoring our phones. Probably the most recent one that we didn't have enough time to label as a conspiracy theory was a couple of months ago, when AI firms started picking up anomalous spikes in pneumonia-related deaths and started talking about the fact that there's another unknown pandemic going on that's killing people but mislabeled as pneumonia. Edit. Here is an article about how a Canadian startup spotted it 9 days before WHO announced the pandemic. My comment about is mainly conjecture, but I think it is very plausible that Blue Dot is not the only startup research group picked up on the fact that something is going on. Most of us, including myself, have anecdotes regarding themselves or relatives going through horrible illnesses. Late 19. There is meaningful trends in retrospect. So there must be trends back then that must have triggered something. Any statistical engine analyzing the data, if any. Edit 2. The IDLF also shared some more sources on the subject. Edit 3. Here is another link from UK Casper. https://n.m. Wikipedia.org. Wiki. CIA_involvement_Contra_cocaine_trafficking. Edit. Apparently this wasn't fully proven. If someone would like to share more about this story, feel free. The Lincoln assassination. That was a true conspiracy, with shadowy meetings and plans and everything. Besides Lincoln, they planned to kill the VP Johnson and Secretary of State Seward. Unlike movie conspirators, most of these guys were adults. The VP assassin chickened out. Seward's would-be assassin succeeded in seriously wounding him but failed to kill him. JWB succeeded but was caught and killed a couple weeks later. They were all rounded up, and in the heat of the times were executed. Even Mary Surratt, who owned the boarding house where they met, was hanged. The doctor who said Booth's leg, broken during the escape, got 20 years in prison. People don't think of it as a classic conspiracy, because there wasn't a government or state-sponsored hand behind it, try as they might. The feds could never find any proof that the Confederate leadership had anything to do with it. But it was a conspiracy nonetheless. The Epstein case really opened the door to conspiracies for me. I lost all trust in our government. Like this man had dirt on tons of high-level politicians and celebrities and magically kills himself before he has to testify. And nobody seems to be aggressively getting to the bottom of it. He was running child sex rings with world leaders. What the actual fuck? Why are we not up in arms over this? What's also shocking to me is how little the media covered it and how it's pretty much already blown over. What else has the government covered up? That China harvests organs from their prisoners. The first rumors came out in the early 2000s, but everyone dismissed it since it came from Falun Gong practitioners, which were like a Chinese Buddhist cult. If you lived in any major city, you'd see them passing out flyers and protesting in front of Chinese embassies, and no one believed them. 20 years later, we all know it to be true. It may seem unthinkable now, but just a few decades ago the idea that the Catholic Church was knowingly harboring pedophiles among its ranks, and would move those child molesters to different locations with fresh victims when the people at their current location became suspicious, was thought to be a conspiracy theory only believed by total tinfoil hat nutcases. Shame, it turned out to be horribly true. And the Catholic Church still hasn't cleaned up their act. If the choir boys are in less danger now, it's not because the church has cracked down on the predators. It's because normal people now know not to leave their kid alone with Father McFeely. Panama Papers. That the FBI was heavily involved in drug distribution to lower-income, predominantly black neighborhoods a few decades back. Edit: CIA, not FBI. 30 years ago, my aunt and uncle, educated scientists, told me that Harvard and the other Ivy Leagues had a secret quota they used to keep Asians limited. I stupidly thought this was crazy because I was repeatedly told affirmative action can only help you, not hurt you. And here we are, that we've had a female president before. There was a theory that Roosevelt was ill and bedridden for the latter part of his second term in office and that his wife was secretly running the show, making most of the decisions. Turns out it was true. Many people who were part of Roosevelt's staff at the time admitted it years later, making Nazis American citizens and erasing their pasts. Gulf of Tonkin Incident. https://n.m. Wikipedia.org. Wiki. Gulf_of_Tonkin_incident. Gleiwitz incident. https://n.m. Wikipedia.org. Wiki. Gleiwitz_incident. Remember when crazies thought the CIA was listening to stuff said in your home? Now, we're all like, hey, CIA, do you know a good chicken recipe? The 2017 Jacksonville Jaguars were frauds. ITT, people missing the proven to be true part of the question. One that got proven false was the Rosenbergs were falsely accused, which was a subject of many documentaries in the 70s and 80s. After the fall of USSR, it was proven they were spies. CIA was responsible for the death of nuclear physicist Homi Bhabha, who wanted to extract India's thorium reserves to create the nation's three-stage nuclear power program. A journalist who taped interviews with a former CIA operative, Robert Crowley Talks, later made this public. That government agents keep asking this on Reddit to see if there are any new leaks. No one gonna bring up Operation Sea Spray. The Navy was testing bacterial weaponry in 1950 on San Francisco. They released pathogens off the shore and calculated that there was enough for the whole population to get a dose. Caused a spike in urinary tract infections and a guy died. That Michael Jackson's father had him chemically castrated. His doctor confirmed it after his death. That girl from Smallville being involved in a sex cult. Operation Paperclip. E.T. Atari game being buried in the desert after being a total failure. There was an old conspiracy theory that during Prohibition the government was poisoning alcohol to prevent people from drinking, and even up the strength of the poison. Apparently 10,000 people died. Concentration camps. There were several reports to Allied governments about them. No one believed it until the U.S. Army started liberating them, at least the scale of it. That most questions on this subreddit are inherently produced by bots with only a few modifications to make themselves seen as new questions. Don't get me wrong though, I still love the answers you guys give. MK Ultra, CIA mind control and behavior modification program. There were a lot of different conspiracies about it and it turned out to be true. Some notorious people were subjects in the program, including the Unabomber and Whitey Bulger. There is an underlying theory that the project never stopped and is ongoing even today. There's a running conspiracy that Kubrick did not film the moon landing. This was recently proven true by Buzz Aldrin, who did go to the moon and did not meet Stanley Kubrick. Unethical human experimentation in the U.S. There is a long Wikipedia article https://n.m. Wikipedia.org. Wiki. Unethical_human_experimentation_in_the_United_States. Keep in mind that nobody has ever been held accountable for this shit. The CIA spreading crack through black communities. Mass surveillance by the U.S. government used to be a crackpot theory until Snowden revealed it was actually true, and the NSA were doing just that. https://www. The Verge.com, 2013 7th, 17 4,517,480ths NSA spying PRISM surveillance cheat sheet. How has the leaded gas conspiracy not been mentioned? The U.S. government and powerful lobbies denied leaded gasoline was affecting society for decades. Drops in violent crime exactly follow the reduction in the use of leaded gasoline across multiple countries. https://n. Wikipedia.org. Wiki. Robert_A_Kyo. There was a conspiracy that used to go around that a bunch of politicians, business owners, and actors spend 2 weeks in the California woods having orgies and sacrificing children. It was sometime between 1999 and 2001, but Alex Jones, who at the time was new to the reporting world, contacted the BBC and told them he wanted to prove that conspiracy. They sent him a BBC reporter and a camera, and they snuck into the supposed camp and captured footage of actors and politicians camping out together and burning child effigies in front of a giant owl statue. After 9/11 though, the shock factor quickly got tossed to the wind. But it was still proved. Still happens. And there's still footage of the cremation of care ceremony at Bohemian Grove.